Hey guys, I'm Jafar here, and this is the part 1 of two-part video I have on basics of Adobe Lightroom for beginners. Make sure to tune in next week for the second part. I decided to make this video into two parts. I recorded everything in one sitting, but after starting to edit, it's actually more than 40 minutes of video, so I decided to split it in two parts, and that is why you'll see a different setting in the tutorial than what you're seeing now in the introduction. So without further ado, let's get started. Good to have you back, good to see your smiling faces, and hope you all staying safe and healthy. Before anything, let me explain what Adobe Lightroom is. They call it the Adobe Photoshop Lightroom because it's basically one of Photoshop products which you can edit photos in, and it's exclusively made for photos. You can preview some videos in it, but as I said, it's exclusively made for photos. It's a very user-friendly software in which you can edit your photos and access them either from your desktop or your mobile phone if you have the full version of the Lightroom. It's really convenient because you can access your photos even if you don't have your, for example, hard drive with you or laptop with you. You can basically sync them to the cloud that Adobe is providing, and you can access those photos and edit them on the go wherever you are or whenever you want to. So without further ado, let's jump on Lightroom, open it up together, and I'll go over the basics for you guys. When you get the Lightroom, you can have a trial version for almost a month, I believe. But if you go to Adobe's website, there's a lot of plans that you can purchase the Lightroom from there, and it's really convenient. I got myself the photography plan many years ago, and I used Lightroom next to the actual Photoshop in many occasions. I can easily access the Lightroom in my phone, and Adobe gives you that cloud I talked about. Before anything, this video is not sponsored by Adobe. It would really be nice if they do that down the road, but this is just a user experience, and I'm trying to teach someone who's actually just starting to do this. So I just reinstalled the Lightroom, and I will try to open it up for the first time with you guys. So let's hop on the Lightroom, double click, open it up, and let it boot. Takes for a little bit after you install it. Oh wow, it did not remove my previous imports, so I guess I didn't fully reinstall it. It's actually pretty good for me because I have some of my plugins in there, so I don't have to reinstall those plugins. By the way, this footage that you guys watching on the screen now, I have a vlog for it coming out later on this week, and also another one that I'll show you in a second. So let's let Lightroom come up because it's the first time opening up in a bit, and I'll talk about it when it's actually fully loaded. She's finally booted, and let's maximize the screen. So when you open up the Lightroom, you'll see this window right there. You see a library right here. Moving my cursor around it. When you open your Lightroom up for the first time, you're not gonna see all these photos up here or just things down here. So let me just minimize everything. So basically not gonna see anything. These are all folded like this, and nothing is basically visible because you haven't imported anything. But every time like you import something to the Lightroom and you close out and you go back to your Lightroom again, you'll see those that's been imported. So as I said a couple times, first thing you want to do is import your files. So when you open up the Lightroom, there's nothing in it, and you will need to import stuff. How do we import things to the Lightroom? Is by actually go here on the left bottom right here, move my cursor around it, hit import, and it takes you to this window. There's a couple ways to do it. You can either find from this area, go to your OS, or to make it easier, just select the source, either from desktop, pictures, or other sources, for example, and you can go to your PC, and if you have an external drive, find the external drive, double click on it, and wherever you save your photos, go there and find it. So now let's actually import something, because I haven't imported anything for the photo shoot I had yesterday. So again, let's do it again. Go to import, select the source, other sources. I have it on my external drive, photography, this folder. Let's try this folder, and when you double click on the folder you want to open, it just gives you an option to select a folder. If you had another folder under this folder, if you select this folder, the folder within the folder you're selecting is going to be selected too, so you'll see the photos. So select the folder, and it comes like this. So you can see everything is selected. If it's not selected, you can just select the ones you want to select like this, or just uncheck all or check all. And then for example, I want to bring everything in, so I just import everything right here. So you just hit import and it will import to your Lightroom. So after you import all the photos, you can either stay in the library that you are, open up the photos one by one, and actually rate them, so later on when you go to edit them you can sort them by the ones that rated and edit those. But I'll show you guys in a second how those works. So now you have these imported here, as you can see on the screen. Again, if you want to navigate through the ones that you imported already, you go to folders, and for example this one was this folder right here. So if I want to go back to my previous import, I navigate it through this one, I go to the last import, and the photos that I edited or rated, as you can see it's been rated or edited, it shows it. So let's just do it in the folder that we just imported. So on the right side here and the left side and the bar in the bottom right here, you can either bring this back or take it away just like this by clicking the sides like that, even the one bar in the bottom. There are a couple things that you can navigate through. On the left side is basically your navigation, how you want to navigate. I'll just bring this down too. For example, if you want to look at a photo up close, for example this one, you either click on it or come here, make it bigger, or you just double click on it. So from here you can either you can see the zoom here, you can zoom it and navigate it through this, or zoom out, or you can change your zoom setting. For example, go back, or where was it, or go all the way in or more. That's too much in. Let's go back to this, and here you have some quick access, like quick develop. You can just change it if you want auto tone or anything. I wouldn't recommend this, because you're downloading this type of, you're paying for it and downloading this type of software because you want to do everything yourself. You don't want the software to actually decide for you. So I mean, you can do it if you want, go ahead and do it, but you would want to actually do it yourself, because that's why you downloaded it. There's some other stuff here like keywords, keyword list. You can just add some keywords here if you want to later on access them easier by sort them by keywords, and by sorting them from the keywords you created, because there's no keywords, there's nothing here. And then metadata, nothing selected. When you select it, it has the data or information you have saved on your camera. For example, it has my name as a creator. You can change that if you want. And if there's any comments to the photo, you can do that in the camera if your camera has that option. And then right here you can rate it. You can have it like a grid view, zoomed in just like this, or compare it with original and edited version. Flag it if you want to change the sort, the view, or rotate the photo and draw a face region. These are when you have portraits. The same thing here, grid view, you can access it here too if you want to go back. That's pretty much how library works. There's another option down here to sync your settings and sync your metadata, but because there's nothing being done to these photos, these options are not working. Now let's see how we can edit the photo. As I said, library is just for preview, and if you want to edit the photo, you have to go to this option, develop. So as soon as you go to develop, you see that things changes, like from what you see, navigation and stuff here in library. On the right side, you still have a histogram, but you have more options to edit photos. And on the left side, there are more options to edit the photos as well. Like you still can navigate, but then you have your presets, you have your snapshots, and you have your history, and so on. Let me just give you a brief rundown on what these things are. Presets are when you either make yourself a preset, or if you buy a preset online. By the way, I'm going to have my presets coming out soon, so again, tune in on my Instagram or the channel, have that notification bell on, so you know as soon as I have the presets out, you can actually download them and use them. And how you can use them, I'm gonna have them on the next videos. I'm gonna post for more intermediate and advanced using Lightroom. So snapshot is when you go through editing the photo, you can take a snapshot of what it is now, like the original photo, and then you can take a snapshot of the midway and a snapshot of the end, and you can either you can go back to the snapshots that you have and export them of what you have in the snapshots. When you work on a photo, you will see all the works you've done on the history, and if you for example Ctrl Z or undo what you did, those will get removed. So you make snapshots if you need to change your edits later on, so you can actually access those snapshots and work from there. And with that, you're not gonna lose the things you changed and you want to go back and gets removed from history. Everything is happening on the right side of the window, right here. So you have a histogram which shows, like, for example, the shadows, exposure, highlights, and whites. It's more photography related. For photographers who's trying to get a perfect photo, they look at the histogram. This one is messed up. It needs to be right in the middle, like a curve in the middle, but my environment when I took this photo was not right. If you look at another one, the histogram is actually better. You have that curve you wanted to have, but those are for another video, another time. Right now we're just focusing on the basics of the Lightroom. Right below histogram, there's a box with a couple tools in it. You have your crop tool, you have your spot removal tool, there's a radar correction. I never use this one because I haven't taken any portraits that I use direct flash that it makes the red eyes, unless they did something else, but that'd be another topic to talk about. You have your graduated filter and you have your radial filter as well as the brush. Let's look at the editing tools that Lightroom gives you. Under basics, you have literally just some basics. Let me just minimize this a little. So anyway, you can actually move these with just hover over it, and you give that arrow. You can make it bigger, make it smaller, or if you want to just get rid of them, there's a little arrow down here. You can just click on that, and then it gives you more space to work with. I always like to see my like a little preview of like what photos I have. I usually minimize this one because I don't use it, and have this like this much. But just for this video, let me just expand this as much as I can, which is this, and I'm gonna come back in this later on. You can also like just hover over it and it comes out. So again, when you go under basics, you can have it as a color, or you can have a black and white. So if you want to just like have a black and white photo of your color, you just click on this and makes it a black and white. When it does that, it changes some setting and doesn't let you to work on some other settings. For example, here you can't change the saturation and vibrance anymore. Here you have your white balance. You can change it to some pre-fitted into the actual Lightroom, but let's just try it. it was a sunny with the daylight. If I change it, it changes my tint and temperature. But I would like to tweak this myself, because when I took the photo, the white balance was actually what I really want it to be. And then you have your exposure. You can change your exposure here. If for example you take a photo as like this when it's actually taken, you can bring it down and change your exposure. You can change your contrast, your highlights, which removes the highlights as much as it's possible. Sometimes it's just too much like this. You're losing a lot here, so don't overdo it. Just do it right. And then you can here you have your shadows. So how you can change this slide, I forgot to say that. You can either hover over it, just click on it and move it, or you can click on it, then move your arrows with the arrows here, or you can change it with inputting the number you want and enter, for example 10. But when you want to change it back to what it was, you can just double click on that slider and it goes back. Or they usually all stay 0. The only thing that is not 0 is your temperature and your tint. And also you can hover over the number and change it from there. So that's that too. Then you have your whites, which removes the whites or add more whites to it, blacks as well. So everything that you go to the left, it gives you a negative, which removing it from your photo, and everything that you go to positive, it's adding to your photo. So again, bringing it to the left is negative and removing, and going to the right is positive and adding. For example, I'm adding some shadows, bringing out the shadows, or I'm removing the highlights that I have. I'm reducing the contrast and reducing the exposure just a little bit. I'm reducing just a little bit. But let's double click on everything and reset these. Then you have your texture. This has just been added to the Lightroom, and it's pretty nice when you try to bring out some textures. For example, on the asphalt, you can just use this and a graduated filter. I'll show you in a second, but just for the sake of it now. And then clarity, you can again change it. And the dehaze. Dehaze is really nice because when you have a photo like this, you can dehaze it and bring back more details that you've lost due to all these like smoke, for example. Would you look at those light beams right here? And then the vibrance and the saturation. These two work with the colors. You don't want to overdo it, bring the whole thing down and take this all the way up. You just don't want to do extra. So let's just go over everything here real quick, and I will edit one photo just using the basic tools. The basics, we just went over it, and then we have the tone curve, in which you can either have highlights, lights, dark, shadows, change these. This tone curve is where you go to if you want to actually get some of those moody photos where you have a lot of blacks actually looking really black, or it's a little faded. And then you have your HSL and color, which stands for hue, saturation, luminance. This is where you actually change your color, saturation, luminance, and hue. Saturation is the saturation of the color. Hue is when you want to change your color to look something else and look adjust the color. Sometimes the camera doesn't pick up, for example, the green as green it is, so you can actually go here and make that green look green like this you see on the screen. And then luminance is basically the highlights of the color. Then we have the split toning. Here you can change the color of your highlight or shadows. For example, here I want to have my shadows to look a little bit more yellow. I click on this and that's how it looks. Let's do it before and after. And that's what split toning is. Then details, you can actually sharpen a photo with this. You can change the sharpening tools, and sharpening looks here. And then noise reduction, you can actually reduce the noise you have in a photo. If you take a photo with a higher ISO and you see a lot of noise in your photo, you can go to this and change your noise and reduce your noise. It works really good, but if you have a completely blown out image with a lot of noise, you might not be able to actually refine that photo or get a look you wanted out of it. So always make sure to take the photo with the lower ISO, because you don't want to have a unusable image. And after details, you have lens correction. Here you can actually enable the profile corrections. Some lenses have vignetting and distortions, in which make the corners to look a little bit darker, or make the corners to look not as straight and more like a sphere shape. And that's how you can actually fix it afterward. You can change your settings in camera to actually remove that to some extent, because some cameras have it. Also have that turned on my camera, so it's supposed to remove those vignetting, distortion, and chromatic aberration. But again, I can change it and fix it here. So when you turn this on, this always being auto mode, and when you take the photo with your lens is actually being already recognized by Lightroom, and it fixes the problems with the information Lightroom has from that lens. Or you can actually make a default one like this one. I use a Rokinon lens, which is not being registered by the camera. So what it does, I actually find it in Adobe profiles, and I made it as a default. Again, you can go back. Even if you enable this, you can go back, and if you, for example, wanted some more vignetting here, or change the distortion to look like this more or less. So that's what distortion is, to look more or less. You can change that as well. And then when you go to you can click on remove chromatic aberration, but you can go to manual and change it yourself. So chromatic aberration is that pink highlights you get from reflections. You can change the pink highlight or reddish highlight. It looks like a burnt thing on the photo. And then you have and then you have transform. In here you can actually rotate a photo, but it gives you more options to make a photo look more straight, because you can actually change the plane of how the photo is being taken. For example, sometimes you stand in front of your subject and you take a photo right straight, but sometimes your lens is actually a little bit crooked, and when you take a photo, the photo looks a little bit crooked, just like here. When I took the photo, I was just a tiny on the left side of the car. So what I do is change the horizontal shape to be like here, so then it looks straight. But I usually don't like to mess around with this. And then you have FX, in which you can actually change your vignetting. If you want some post crop vignetting to make it look black on the sides, or I don't know, some people maybe like white, it changes like that. And then you can add some grain to your photo. Adding a grain, it looks like this, as you can see on the screen, but it looks like a rustic photo or a photo from a film, which is pretty nice. Then there's some calibrations. So calibrations are basically a mixture of your split toning and your hue, saturation, and luminance. So what it does, you can change the tint on the shadows. And let's just do this like this. I'm just sliding it, doing the slide left and right. Or you can change the so it's basically like your RGBs. You can change the hue saturation on the RGBs, which is the red, green, and blue. You can either change it here, or you can go to your hue saturation and luminance and change it here. And that's pretty much it for all the tools Lightroom give you as of editing a photo. Alright, this is it for part 1. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, feel free to comment down below, say something, I'll get back to you. Make sure to tune in for part 2. It's coming out soon. I will be posting a vlog for the next video. I have recorded all these photo shoots, and the ones you actually saw on the screen with the smoke bomb experience and everything. So make sure to tune in, and that will be an awesome video. I have a lot of interesting footage for that too. Thanks again for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I have a lot of content coming out, and I don't want you guys to lose any of it. So hit that notification bell on, and that is it. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.